Can everyone hear me? All right, it's 6 p.m. Good evening, everyone. And welcome to the Virgin Islands Port Authority's Aviation Rate Methodology public hearing, followed by a presentation of the proposed designs for the redevelopment of the Henry E. Rohlsen and Cyril E. King Airport terminals. I am Munifa Brathwaite, the Public Information Officer for the Virgin Islands Port Authority, and I'll also be moderating tonight's hearing. On behalf of VIPA, I extend a warm welcome to those joining us here in person, those watching online, or any distinguished officials that are here with us, VIPA board members and staff, government representatives, aviation stakeholders, our Sky City team, and members of the community. Welcome to you all. This public hearing is required by law before any changes can be made to the Port Authority's aviation tariff. And VIPA welcomes public input as it is an important part of this process. Tonight's hearing here at the UVI Innovation Center in St. Thomas is the second of 3 scheduled public hearings. VIPA and Sky City hosted a hearing in St. Croix on Monday this week, and will host the same hearing in St. John tomorrow at the Julius Sproul Auditorium at 6 p.m. This evening's presentation will be led by the Port Authority's Interim Executive Director, Mrs. Ava Penn. And also from Sky City, we have Mr. Steve Nakin, and the ACON Concession President and Sky City Board Chairman, and also Mr. Ryan Yakubik. Sky City is VIPA's Airports P3 partner. We also have, I'm seeing the Deputy Executive Director, Mrs. Anise Penn from the Port Authority. I'm sorry, Anise Hodge. As accustomed to saying Ava Penn. Anise Hodge, welcome. And the 16th Senator, Mr. James Lewis just arrived. Welcome, welcome. A few guidelines for tonight's hearing. The first segment of tonight's hearing will be the discussion of the rate methodology. Please hold all your questions until the end of the presentation in the interest of time. To ensure that everyone has an equal opportunity to be heard, everyone will have one round of questioning and everyone will have 2 minutes per person. The persons attending on Zoom, they can submit their questions in writing. I will be sure to answer them. The rates presentation and question and answer period should end at around 7 o'clock, and we will transition into the presentation of the proposed designs of the terminal. Viper and Sky City officials will then join you outside at the renderings and answer any questions you have about the terminal designs. Questions may also be submitted in writing. We have a form outside at the entrance desk, and you may also submit them via email at info@viport.com. We ask, please, that everyone remain courteous and respectful throughout tonight's hearing. And finally, please, again, silence or put your phones on vibrate, because we do have people listening on Zoom and it interrupts the transmission. Thank you again for joining us and for participating in this important process. And I will now turn the floor over to Mrs. Ava Penn, Viper's Interim Executive Director.
Good evening, everyone. It's so good to see so many familiar faces. Thank you guys for coming out and lending your support to this very important project for the Virgin Islands Port Authority and the Virgin Islands as a whole. My name is Ava Penn, and as Monica indicated, I am the Interim Executive Director at the Virgin Islands Port Authority. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to participate in the discussion regarding proposed changes to the methodology used to calculate rates and charges at our airports. Viper is required by law to conduct this hearing to inform the public of any changes to its tariffs and to give interested persons an opportunity to provide comments and ask questions. A large share of the cost of operating the airports is derived from user fees Viper charges to airlines under the authority's aviation tariff. Under the new tariff methodology, capital, operating, and maintenance costs will continue to be paid for the primary users of the airports, which are the airlines. The new tariff is not a tax on passengers. The proposed new tariff methodology sets forth the initial framework proposed by Viper for the P3 development of the airports. Viper is the airport sponsor, with Sky City as the nominated operator under the transition agreement. Sky City has been expressly engaged to consult on, develop, and present proposed rates and charges. Therefore, as Viper's representative, Sky City developed the methodology will be discussed this evening and is acting in an advisory capacity to present and answer your questions regarding the rates and charges that will go into effect when it commences operational services at both of our airports. Upon approval by Viper's governing board, the updated aviation tariff will reflect the new methodology to become effective November 1st, 2026. I will now turn it over to Mr. Steve Nacken, President of AECON Concessions, and he is the Chairman of the Board of Directors for Sky City Consortium, to give remarks and introduce his team and presentation. Steve?
Thank you, Ms. Penn. Good evening, everybody. I was going to welcome you all to this event, and then I realized that I am in your house. So instead, thank you for the warm welcome that the US Virgin Islands has extended to Sky City. We're delighted to be here tonight to present to you two main presentations. Firstly, as Eva said, important information regarding Viper's new aviation tariff methodology. And secondly, information about the P3 project, including a few design renderings. This week is an important milestone in the process to modernize your gateway airports, vital infrastructure underpinning your tourism-based economy. Firstly, I would like to introduce Sky City. Who are we, what are we, and how do we get here? Sky City is a purpose-built, special-purpose consortium and an airport company, a collaboration of 4 partner companies, individually and collectively bringing together the skills and experience necessary to advance the P3 project, to help transform USVI aviation. Aecon is Canada's largest publicly traded construction and infrastructure development company, in business for over 150 years, delivering public infrastructure across many different sectors of the economy, a P3 pioneer, and involved in many P3 projects around the world, including airports. TKO Star Infrastructure, our equity partner, New York-based private equity firm, will be contributing part of the equity into the project. J. Benton Consigli, homegrown contractor, a name you all know, will be helping us build the project locally with their knowledge of island logistics and the local workforce. And finally, Avports, our operations and maintenance partner, US-based with decades of experience managing many, many US airports, currently approximately 12, focused mainly in the Northeast, but also some in the Caribbean. This team was assembled because in combination, we bring the experience of over 40 P3 projects, strong balance sheets and project financing experience to support large-scale capital investments, deep and broad Caribbean, regional, and island infrastructure delivery experience, including the most recent and relevant airport projects in the region, unmatched local construction capability, unmatched US private airport operations and maintenance know-how. Sky City was selected by Viper as its P3 partner after a rigorous public procurement that attracted interest and submissions from over a dozen proponents. So the first part of this evening is all about the tariff methodology, and it's going to be presented by a member of our team, Ryan Yakubik, who is our specialist on all things rates and charges. In a former life, Ryan was the chief financial officer at LAX, so he is eminently qualified to lead us through this topic. So I'm going to hand it over to Ryan for the next part of the presentation.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, everyone, and the Port Authority for hosting this event. I'm here tonight to provide an overview to the rates and charges methodology that VIPA is considering putting in place. As Eva gave you a full overview, this is part of a consultation process that is intended to allow the public and stakeholders an opportunity to comment on the methodology before it's considered by the VIPA board for adoption. So as part of all of that methodology, I'll be walking you through an overview of this. The methodology is based primarily on a cost recovery process. VIPA has coordinated with Sky City to develop this methodology, and VIPA has overseen this process in order to ensure a fair, equitable, and transparent process for developing rates and charges and ensuring that VIPA has the ability to continue to recover its operations, maintenance, and in the future capital charges associated with running and operating the airport. These policies have also been developed in particular to be in compliance with FAA rates and charges policies. After the VIPA board has considered this methodology and assuming they move forward and adopt it, the methodology will be implemented November 1st by VIPA's partner, Sky City, and the process will be administered by them from that point on. If we can get the next slide. So as I mentioned, this is a cost recovery process. VIPA every year incurs costs in operating its airports, and in order to ensure that the money is there to pay these costs, it needs to have a methodology that is capable year in and year out of recovering costs. And in particular, this methodology is focused on aeronautical users. Costs of non-aeronautical areas are paid for by VIPA and their operator through other revenues, but costs in particular associated with the airfield and the terminal that are used by the airlines are recovered through this methodology. As you can see, the methodology takes place November 1st of this year, and that makes for an 11-month year. But for that partial year, VIPA is estimating approximately $67 million in expenses for the operations and maintenance of the terminals, airfields, and other areas of the airport. As we're focused primarily on the aeronautical areas, we'll focus in on those. That's roughly $24 million associated with running the airfield and another $39 million associated with the terminal areas. Next slide. So as we take those costs, we drop it into these buckets, the buckets being the airfield bucket, and the airfield is the runways, taxiways, parking areas, fencing, lighting, all of the things that are in and around the airfield. The terminal building is obviously just that. It's the place where passengers are processed into and out of the airport. Once we take those costs and we drop them into these buckets, they are allocated for the purposes of establishing rates, and those rates are based on activities. So the airfield rates are basically divided by the amount of landed weight each year and charged to the airlines. This is very common in all U.S. domestic airports. The terminal building rates are taken, and the costs are then allocated across the various areas within the terminal. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of areas within the terminals, everything from baggage systems and ticketing areas and commuter facilities. Each of those areas receives an allocation of costs associated with it, largely on the basis of the square footage within the terminal that it occupies. Next slide. So this is the outcome of that allocation process. And as you can see, we have a whole variety of rates. These are charged to the airlines by their use of these various areas on the basis of either activity or, in the case of the airfield, landed weight. But, you know, before anybody runs and grabs a calculator, the upshot of all of this is that the charges that would be paid by the airlines in that next fiscal year would be roughly approximate to about $50 per passenger who are passing through the airport. So if we back up 2 slides, that $50 per passenger is in effect paying all of these expenses you see here. So the expenses you see on the airfield, these are things like maintaining the pavement that the aircraft are operating on, fire and police services, operations staff, utility costs, general airfield management contracts. In the terminal, obviously terminals are big, complicated buildings. They have lots of mechanical systems, particularly an airport has got things like baggage systems. Obviously, you need to maintain air conditioning. I have gotten great appreciation for the air conditioning while I've been here. Operations staff, fire department, utility costs, custodial costs. These are all the costs that are being recovered through these rates and charges each year. So again, this methodology is focused on assigning costs and equitably distributing them amongst the users. And each year, these costs are updated based on the budget for that current year. They're charged throughout the year, and then they're reconciled at the end of the year to ensure that only the full costs are recovered and not more or less. So with the last slide here, just wrapping that up, that is a broad overview of the methodology. I do want to point out the rates and charges methodology in its entirety is posted on VIPA's website. It's been there for the last month. Monica, what's the website? Just, sorry.
Website is
So do visit the website in order to see the methodology and its full complete document. But with that being said, these are the opportunities for the public to provide comments. We're running parallel consultations with our airline stakeholders as well as other stakeholders. But this is the opportunity to provide comments in and around this methodology. So I'm here to answer questions regarding the methodology to the extent anyone in here has them. Monica, did you want to do a quick?
Okay, we're having one round of questioning because we do have a second presentation tonight. Everyone has 2 minutes for their questions, so everyone gets a turn to speak tonight. And who will be our first tonight? Okay. We'll start here. Remember to please state your name, your full name.
My name is Lauren Carr with American Airlines, although I also am the chair of the AAAC, which is the organization that represents all of the air carriers here at the airports. And just so that you all know, I have many colleagues here with me that have yielded their 2 minutes to me. So VIPA has graciously allowed me to exceed the 2 minutes, but that is the framework under which they allowed that to occur. All right, so I want to dispel some things that we heard on Monday in St. Croix, and we talked about it being privately funded. Privately funded and privately financed are two different things. Just to be clear, all of the costs of building this airport and modernize them will come back through to you. Now, Ms. Penn stated it's not a direct tax on the users of the airport, and that is technically true. It is not a tax on the passengers on the airport, but all of those costs have to be recovered via the air carriers, and we will absolutely be passing those on to you all. So you will be paying for it. Let's be clear about that. We do support, by the way, modernization, and we agree St. Thomas and St. Croix deserve safe, modern, and reliable airports. A third-party operator to run them. We do not agree on. We do not have objections to that. We agree with Sky City. We agree with VIPA that those things are necessary. However, the tariff increases are being used to force acceptance of a $1.2 billion airport program that we have repeatedly opposed. And when I say opposed, I mean we sat in a room for almost 2 years trying to negotiate an agreement that would work for everybody. And ultimately, this is the result. We are being forced into a program that is unaffordable. Okay, and that too. And let's be clear about something else. On Monday, there were a lot of, I'm going to leave that part out because it didn't come up today. There were some aspersions about deserving safe airports. I want to be certain that they are safe. They are safe today, or we would not be operating. So I'm going to dispel with some of the things we're going to say about that. So we're not arguing against safety airports. We're not arguing against modernization. But for 2 years, we've spent over thousands of hours and $1.5 million or more of our own resources working in good faith to find a responsible path forward. We've offered in our own alternative. And when I say we've offered our own alternative, I'd like to remind everybody that combined, these airlines have thousands of years of experience with building airports and ensuring that the operating environment they work in works for customers and for our airline operations. And we were not special purpose built for this. We didn't just come into being a couple years ago. American Airlines specifically has been here for over 50 years. And we think we know what it takes to operate in the Caribbean. Now, our phased redevelopment plan would modernize both airports, approximately $390 million plus financing costs, while preserving affordability and competitiveness. And we'd love the opportunity to tell you about this at another time. Our proposal, however, was rejected, and we are pursuing this preferred alternative instead, which ultimately, and it's true, as Ryan pointed out, I'd agree with that number, about $50 on November 1st, and I don't see a lot of change on November 1st. We'll figure out how to work with that. But as the project comes online, as costs go up, we're going to ultimately get to around 126 per departing passenger using the numbers we were given. And that is higher than any other airport in the United States airport system. And let's be clear about something, because you're going to hear individuals tell you we shouldn't be comparing it to the United States airport system, we should be comparing it to the Caribbean. And that's a really easy argument to make, and it seems really great on the top and on the front of it. But it's incorrect. The comparison cannot be to other airports because they are under a different regulatory regime. So the exact same flight with the exact same dollars on the ticket can operate to St. Martin, say, and make money, and operate to St. Thomas under this program and lose money. And I'll let you decide for yourself what you think will happen if the airlines start losing money flying here. You're going to hear a little bit about jobs creation, and we agree, this will create jobs for folks, especially for the construction part. But what I'm worried about is the jobs that go away if the airports become unaffordable and air service declines as a result. I want you to think about that. There may be some short-term gains, but I'm very worried about what happens to the economy and the job prospects here on the islands for people once the construction is completed. A $4 million boarding bridge is worth nothing if there are no airplanes at the end of it, and that's what is likely to happen. If this project pushes airlines out of the market, reduces service, or drives visitors elsewhere, you will lose more long-term jobs than it temporarily creates. Empty gates don't create jobs, full airplanes do. We've been equally concerned about the lack of transparency surrounding this proposal. Many of our requests remain unanswered, denied, or delayed. The recent rate session with Sky City and VIPA only heightened some of those concerns. There were discrepancies, conflicting information, and unanswered questions, and to be fair, Ryan is committed to getting us answers on those. But as it stands now, those discrepancies and unclarified issues remain unresolved. We should not be expected to support a $1 billion project or pay for it without full transparency and accountability. If VIPA imposes these rates on November 1st, it will do so without an airline agreement. Without negotiated operating agreement in place, there's no commitments. We can leave if we want. We don't have to pay a lease, no commitment to stay here for a period of time. A negotiated agreement is the proper way to go. And for this reason, we do not support rates by ordinance. They are not a solution. They're an attempt to force through a project that has not earned airline support and has not demonstrated financial reasonableness. It's not a choice between modernization and doing nothing. We all agree something must be done. But it is a choice between an affordable, responsible program and a project that risks burdening the Virgin Islands with extraordinary airport costs for decades. We're ready to negotiate, but we cannot support a program that puts affordability of air service, jobs, and the territory's long-term competitiveness at risk. Modernization should strengthen the Virgin Islands economy, not make it more expensive for residents to travel, more difficult for visitors to arrive, and more challenging for businesses to grow. You all deserve better than that, and we want to make that happen for you.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate your comment. The floor is open. Any additional comments? Okay, we have two. Okay. Okay. Remember, please state your name, and you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Wilfred Omare. I have lived in St. Thomas for approximately 25 years, and I've been with KPF for 21 years. Our airline has been faithful, serve our community for at least past 25 years. Throughout this time, I have witnessed numerous customers journeying to St. Croix to San Juan on vacation, and these customers including veterans, seniors, children who are seeking medical attention or connection to the mainland for treatment or vacation. Should the airport be developed at high expense, it could adversely affect our community by limiting our airline ability to meet community need. I acknowledge the necessity for improvement at our airport because I experienced it at first hand. But we must carefully consider how this decision will impact our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please state your name.
Good afternoon, good evening, Eugene Farrell. I have a couple questions. The $50 per passenger, what is it now?
Oh, it is probably in the mid-20s. Yeah, sorry, I'm flagging there. It's in the mid-20s.
Okay. What is the total bill for the expansion?
Uh,
How much is it gonna cost
in
us?
terms of additional rates and charges or
Yeah.
cost per
Yeah,
passenger?
the total
Um,
cost.
Probably runs somewhere around $125 a passenger. I think
No,
those
no,
are,
the total cost of the project.
oh, all in, including all the financing
Yeah.
costs and development costs, 1.2 billion.
Okay, 1.2 billion. I hope you guys are paying attention to these numbers, right? Because these costs are escalating as we go. This partnership that you guys created, have you done a project of this size anywhere before?
Let Steve answer that one.
Yeah, I'll answer, I'll get to the previous question as well.
Okay.
I think Lauren had mentioned as well last night that the construction cost that we have is around 690 million.
Okay.
Okay, when you finance a project like this and you're not able to start repaying your debt, or you're not able to start charging until you complete, you also have to finance the interest. You have to finance your development costs. You've got to add some provisions for the reserves that the lenders require you to carry. You've got to cover insurance. You've got to cover the cost to the airport authority and so on. And that's how we have to fund or finance from 690 million of construction all the way up to 1.2 billion because of all the ancillary costs that are involved in developing and financing a project. So I just wanted to make that one point.
No problem.
very
I
clear
understand that.
and transparent.
Now,
Yeah.
and this goes to Port Authority. Right after the storms, right, we were given some money to rebuild these airports. What's the status of that money and how much of that money is still available for us to fix these airports? From the FEMA money? No, you didn't get any money? Okay. And then finally, American Airline representative. We here listen to the team, right? What's your proposal? Do you have something to replace this just in case this has to go up? And you must be prepared to present it. Thank you.
Um, no, not right now. Okay, you can speak to him after, okay? All right. Please state your full name.
Good evening, everybody. This is Rudalia Hodge Jr. My first question is, comparative to the rest of the Caribbean and United States, how much is this rate increase this year comparative to other jurisdictions? Because you just stated that it was in the mid-20s, and now it's going to be jumping up to 50. And then also, you stated numerous times in your presentation that these tariffs are on the airlines. Usually, as the airline representative just stated, those are passed on to the consumers, the everyday persons who had purchased these tickets in a territory that desperately needs to transfer and fly out for healthcare, for quality of life reasons. How are you going to prevent those tariffs from being passed on to the everyday consumers? Is your plan to make sure there's not a passing on of those fees to the everyday consumer?
So yes, and I think it was acknowledged on all sides that those costs will go to the airlines and they likely will be passed on as part of the ticket price. The airlines set their rates, they factor in their costs, their profit and everything else. But these increases that we're discussing, whether, this first jump being a $25 to $50 increase, $25 on, is about what it's about half of a regular bag fee paid by, that a passenger pays on an airline. The additional increases, these are costs that come regardless of where you are in the country. These rate increases do get passed on to airlines and they do get factored into the ticket prices. This is part of how the development across the country works, is these costs are large and have to be financed somehow.
Just restate your question.
Yes, again, this is Rudel Hodge. just to restate
Sorry, I might have missed the first question if you want to repeat it.
Yeah,
I-
to restate that first part, where does this rate increase compared to other Caribbean jurisdictions in the United States? As you stated, it's about $20-something right now. It's going to be $50. How much other jurisdictions are in that $20 range, and how much jurisdictions is in that $50 range?
Here, I'll let Steve grab that.
I'm just going to put up a chart to help illustrate the point. Okay, we do have a bit of a debate going with the airlines as to what is the right comparable. Obviously, they prefer to see the comparison to US. They prefer to run the comparison against domestic airports, which are especially mainland hubs, which are much larger. And when you're spreading cost over 50 million passengers or 30 million passengers, it's very different. We look at the Caribbean because we're in the Caribbean, and these are a set of comparables that we have looked at across the Caribbean. So we have looked at the total charge to passengers across all of these different Caribbean island airports so that we could see, as a sanity check, are we doing something in the Virgin Islands that is an aberration or out of the benchmark range for the Caribbean, which we think is a correct comparison set. Sorry, Ryan. When we start out, where we are today, we're right on the far end of the chart.
Excuse me, Steve, I see some people struggling to see from the back, so can you at least call out the figure so that they can know?
Right.
Read what is on the screen so they can hear if they can't see.
In 2027, when we introduce the first increase, 2026, November 1st, the $50 Ryan spoke about plus taxes takes us to about $79.90 for the USVI. We're the second lowest in this data set across the Caribbean. The charges here, the airport charges, are extremely low, even after the first increase, okay? And by the way, that charge roughly stays the same for the first 4 years of the project. We don't increase to cover the capital piece of the project until after construction is delivered in 2031. 2031, fees go up by another 70-something. As Lauren mentioned, that's correct. We look at our fee, our airport charge plus taxes. This is about 122 plus taxes takes us up to 143. We're still well within the Caribbean benchmarks, okay? But now we're at the upper middle end of the range. Little red diamonds show the size of the capital program at each of these airports. So considering that we have a very large capital program compared to some of these other islands, being able to keep the fee within the benchmark range and not on the upper end, it's really because we're able to finance the project at a low rate over a 38-year period. So for us, this is the right data set. We shouldn't be comparing the Virgin Islands to Miami, Atlanta, and New York, and these kinds of other airports. Nobody's making a decision to go to Atlanta or to St. Thomas. They're deciding whether to go to St. Thomas, generally, or St. Croix, and if not, maybe one of these other Caribbean islands. Okay.
And one thing, just to clarify what you're seeing, airports in the Caribbean are mostly international airports. USVI is one of the few airports that falls under a US DOT rate policy regulatory regime. And so when you see all of these different shaded sections, the difference here is different airports may collect taxes directly from the passenger, tagging that on to the end of their ticket, or collecting that a different way, but those taxes are still being applied to travelers coming in there. So we've tried to present this in a way that, lets you see there's a lot of differentiation in terms of how the airlines may get charged from one airport to the next, but the total amount of fees paid by someone is generally within a range, and you can see where Sky City and VIPA's airports will end up, both starting this next year as well as in the future after the project. Madam?
Can you hear me? All right. My name is Ahmed Dennis, and I understand the chart, but I do have a question about the volume of passengers that go through each one of these airports to determine how the cost will be levelized for the airlines, right? So volume makes a difference of passengers coming in, whether or not they consider it profitable or not, because then they can disperse the cost.
Well, and it's presented specifically per passenger to, in effect, level out that volume issue. So it's taking the costs, whether a lot of passengers or little passengers, and it's spreading them across the passengers who are passing through each of these airports. So it, in effect, should be accounting for the fact that some have more and some have less, but it's meant to equalize that regardless of size.
State your full name.
Just to add a small detail to that, many of them are in a similar range, some are much smaller. The difference between the U.S. Virgin Islands structure, because it's a U.S. airport, the structure that we have, and all these other islands is they don't adjust their fees if traffic volumes go up. As their service improves, so they generate more money. The way the system works here is if traffic goes up, cost per in-plane passenger goes down. It's sort of a self-correcting system. So passengers benefit if and as performance and service grows over time.
And another factor on that same basis is many of these are not cost-based rates. They are set at what the government or the operator wants to set those fees and charges at.
My name is Louis Deliro from Emerald Beach and Lindbergh Bay Hotel and Cardo Jewelers. I have a question for. I have a question in terms of traffic for the island for the next 10 years. Let's assume that you complete this particular project. It will take a few years to build. There will be disruption in the traffic, of course, initially. There will be disruption in the handling of the passengers. So it will have an impact on the local economy that will be significant and will be felt by Airbnbs, hotels, and retailers. In the different destinations that you show on this chart, can you tell me which ones you've been involved with? Which destinations you've been involved with? Which airports have you been involved with?
Oh, which airports has this group been involved with?
Yes.
And just to be clear, Sky City is a special purpose entity of the partners. It's
Talking about Econ and yes.
Yeah, just Bermuda is the answer.
Just Bermuda. And tell us about the experience in Bermuda, the first year, the second year. The first year, what was the number of landings that you have in the airport? And then show me the graph of the frequency of the travel, of the number of passengers, year after year for the first 10 years.
Okay, I don't, sorry, could you repeat the last part for us?
I would like to know what's the number of passengers that landed in Bermuda from day one of the construction and day 10, year 10, the 10th year into the program, so that you see if it improves the number of passengers or if it...
Absolutely. We don't have a graph that we can pop right up, but what we can do is we can tell you, what the experience was there from the time that the project, closed and the rates were increased through the development of the project. Obviously, there was COVID in the middle of that, and then we can talk to you about, what happened with those passenger volumes.
I'll just give you a bit of information about it. We were involved from 2016, and Bermuda had around 760,000 passengers at the time. The rates were increased across from 2016 and 17 to enable the project to proceed from about $39 to about $98 by the time we closed in 2017. and were fixed at that point and subject only to increase by inflation thereafter. During that period, from when we started construction, during which time we will simultaneously operating the current airport, the old airport, and building the new one, traffic grew by 19%. So increase from $39 to $98, we grew by 19%. It was better growth than in the 10 years prior to the start of the project. Then, that was over 3 years. Then COVID, okay. Everything fell apart, the airport closed, traffic collapsed, and we lost 25% of our hotel stock, actually, which still has not come back online. It's expected to come back online next year, at which point we will recover to pre-COVID levels. But the important point that you were trying to make was we didn't disrupt traffic at all during the construction period, and the increased fees and charges during the early start phases of the project did not reduce service. Service continued to increase during that period.
So how do you explain the reaction from the other?
I can't.
That's the debate.
We do have another question. Please stand and state your name. It's on.
My name is Bradley, Aviation Budget General Manager. Just a really quick question, if we can just pull up that chart that you had. As I'm looking at it and everything like that, I'm just trying to understand the comparisons, because the comparisons are from every other country or island that doesn't require just a driver's license. We're a place here that gets a lot of attraction and everything just due to the fact that you just need a valid driver's license. So if we're looking at this chart and we move up, what's not preventing people, because most of our people like that are visiting here are coming from the United States, from now going to a Miami or a Florida or something like that because it's cheaper. Like, is there a way to compare for just domestic or places that only utilize just driver's license, or do we only have to use this, which is just showing for like everywhere that's a passport except for us?
Yes, of course, as an American citizen or resident, you need passport to go to all of those territories or countries. But the important thing to remember here is that this is one of the advantages of this market. And this is what attracts people to this destination, is the ease with which they're able to come here without a passport. So one of the reasons why we're very confident in the strength of the traffic and the growth of the traffic is because of this sort of element of ease with which people are able to come here compared to many of these other destinations. Okay, it's just an inherent strength of the territory for travel.
Isn't there like a market, like the American people that can't afford it at that $79 rate versus if they could afford it at $123? Why not go somewhere else? Because now we're in a comparison where if I got a passport, why not go to St. Lucia or go somewhere else?
Americans do go to all these places. I mean, many of the carriers that are here serve all of these markets, including all of the expensive ones. And those are very active and robust traffic and high growth markets. But people who come here really want to come here. They're coming to visit family. They're coming because they're American and it's easy. It's kind of a positive feature about the traffic in this market. But Americans can and do obviously travel to all of these destinations. Yeah.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Hi, good evening. My name is Pash Daswani. I have been a resident of the Virgin Islands for 40 plus years. I'm in the retail industry here. And overnight guest for us is a huge, huge win. While I will say that most of the business is done through cruise ships, the overnight guest has been proven to be a larger spender and just better for the entire community. Whether it's taxis, whether it's retail, whether it's restaurants, whatever that might be. The gentleman from the airlines, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. So you're obviously feeling against this whole scenario. Okay. So when I saw the chart, we were fairly low right now. Have you, I'm sure you've traveled lately, most of us have, or at least thought about traveling. The algorithms from the airlines, and I can show you, because I just flew in from Miami yesterday. There was a ticket for $3,000 from Miami one way with a stop, not even on the nonstop. So I'm sure that's a error on your part. Let's go with that. No, come on, give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's go with that. But I truly feel if the tariffs are so low and the price is $3,000, you think $3,000 is low? Okay, but anyway, this is not a debate. I just wanted to mention the Virgin Islands not only needs an airport like this, we need it yesterday. Have you, I mean, no, Ms. Penn, no shot at you, but we have all been through this airport when the AC has not been functioning, when the bathroom line is ridiculously long for the women, and other, which I won't, this is a WIPA place, so I would not, go any further than that. But I think it's clear and urgent that we need an airport of this size, this quality, as of yesterday. So as a retailer, and speaking on behalf of some retailers, I know this is a plus for the whole island, if not the whole Caribbean. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deswani. Okay, we're getting close to time for the second presentation. Do we have any more questions? We had a discussion before we began. Okay. Please state your name and remember you have 2 minutes.
So my name is Sandra Cisneros, and I work as a consultant for the airlines that fly both of the islands. I am what you call the airline liaison, sometimes referred to as the tip of the spear, to help them negotiate and bridge the gap between the airport and the airline's interests. So I wanted to address a couple of things. Ryan, that slide that you threw up with the CPE numbers, that's only showing one number, right?
Sorry, those weren't CPs, those were total cost per passenger for the different destinations, just to clarify.
Well, okay, you can call it that, but let's say you had a CPE number, you had a stacked graph with the CPE numbers. But we can talk about the fact that those numbers are stacked, right? And it is not an equal representation to this gentleman that asks, where can I go if I only have a driver's license? The costs are an accounting difference between what the airlines absorb versus what they would pay at other international ports, where those costs would be passed on to you as a tax that you pay when you approach an airport, either landing or leaving. It's not the same thing as when you're coming to a US port, because unfortunately in the United States, you're not allowed, these airlines are not allowed to charge these costs separately. They have to, unfortunately, absorb those costs. And it comes through to the gentleman that was asking about, oh, the cost is now $3,000. If that cost is what it is now, and maybe that's a fluke, maybe it's not, or it's just a fluctuation of the timing. Well, I fly here plenty of times for this company. Anyway, to my point, the cost increase exponentially if the airlines cannot absorb these costs. So there is an accounting difference in how those costs are charged. You can go somewhere else. You can go to Puerto Rico for $11 is what the airlines, and they could park their plane somewhere else. There was another gentleman that made a comment about Bermuda. What other airports do you serve? I want to just comment very briefly that when Bermuda was imposed by Skyport, which is a variation of Sky City through ACON, unfortunately, the airlines had to decrease service, or in some cases, they had to go seasonal because they could not afford to fly there. It was another program where they were forced to absorb a program that they did not support. And sure, your rates, your hikes went up. The government opposed it during COVID.
All right, sure. Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments. Okay, we do have another presentation tonight. Is there any more questions? I'll take one more question. We're good? Okay, this will be our last question before we begin the second part of our presentation. Please stand and state your name.
Hi, Emily Zimmerman. I know you talked about CPE for the airlines and compared it just to the Caribbean, but when you look at it across the board with the US, the CPE you're envisioning down here is incredibly high, even compared to small, large, or medium hubs in the States. So I'm curious, you said earlier in your talk, you project about a $50 CPE coming in, going up to 125. How long do you project that to stay, knowing that you have to recover your costs and your investors down the road? It's not just based off of your annual traffic counts.
So those costs would be recovered, and once they reach that new level, at that point, those costs will be, in effect going out just with inflation from that point. So that assumes the repayment of all the debt and financing associated with the new program. And the cost increase after that will largely be a function of increases in inflation.
But those CPEs based on improvements or reconstruction should spike and then drop back off as you go.
Those would be, well, they stay high because of the cost of repaying the financing.
Correct.
Over time. That's why they reach that level and stay high, because you have to use debt financing and long-term financing in order to do that. It's a bit like a mortgage payment. It kind of goes
Understood.
and it stays on.
But at some point, they do taper off down the road. I'm just projecting how long that was going to be.
Once it has paid off, but it is decades out.
Okay. And then secondly, I'm guessing you're pursuing other funding sources like federal funds through the FAA and other entities that you can do an 80-20 split with on your airfield improvements and security improvements and things like that.
Absolutely. AIP grants, we'll be using PFCs. And again, those things as they go in, when those grants come in, those actually are netted against the cost. So those costs are not double charged to the airlines, just to be clear. So yeah, I think we're looking for any possible funding sources, and anything we're getting, we're making sure it goes in there.
All right. And then my last question was, can you give us a broad-based highlight of the differences between your proposal for the airport and what the airlines are putting forth in terms of why the costs are so different? If you can do that just from a 30,000-foot perspective.
It's a little bit difficult to talk about the airline's proposal. They made a proposal. We know that there's a good deal of engineering, planning, costing that has gone into the program that we're proposing. We don't have the detail from the airline side, so I don't really want to. I don't really want to comment on it. So.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yakubik. That concludes the first segment of tonight. We do have some questions on Zoom, which we'll respond to. And there is a request for the presentation to be placed on the Port Authority's website, and we will provide that as well. 1 second. Now we will have the presentation of those airport designs. Let's go.
Hello. Back again. Just a few words before we get to show you the renderings about where we are and the importance of this project. This is a generational opportunity for the people of the US Virgin Islands. Viper has embarked on a bold plan to rectify decades of underinvestment in the airports in St. Thomas and St. Croix. The plan aims to modernize the two airports, each according to its own needs, respecting each island's unique heritage, aimed at transforming aviation infrastructure, passenger services, and experience, and ensuring resilience and dignity. Creating platforms to support the territory's tourism-based economy, because 65% or more of your economy, of your GDP is dependent on tourism. Securing employment for all airport employees, and embracing local business, all without any financial burden to VIPA, the government of the US Virgin Islands, or the local taxpayers. We all know there are a lot of challenges to solve at the two airports. There is no disagreement about it. More challenge in St. Thomas than St. Croix. St. Thomas is designed for about a third of the current traffic that it currently gets. We all know about the congestion and the discomfort. Building systems beyond their useful life and in poor condition. Some inactive, we all experience that. Baggage handling systems outdated. Structural deficiencies in the terminal, and seismic and foundation upgrades required. Many assets not meeting code, health and safety concerns, the need to assure FAA compliance, all playing out in poor operational service levels, poor and deteriorating passenger experience. This is not the first impression anybody wants to have of the USVI, and it's not the lasting impression you want your visitors to have. That's clear. St. Croix is different. It has quite a lot of additional capacity, but it still has failed or failing airport equipment and systems, some beyond the useful life, some non-operational. A baggage handling system largely non-functional, fire protection systems requiring upgrades, some passenger flow inefficiencies, inadequate passenger service levels and passenger experience, roof ponding and leaking, deteriorated landside infrastructure, curbs, parking, roads, sanitary system, and also the need to ensure FAA compliance. Together with VIPA, over a 2-year period, we came up with a solution to deliver modernized, enhanced infrastructure with equitable investments across the two islands, proportionate to their respective traffic, capacity, and cost structures, alleviating congestion and wait times, creating a better travel experience, delivering modern, resilient systems and amenities, compliant, safe, and efficient operations, providing for future tourism growth to underpin your tourism-based economy, and helping the islands remain competitive with other Caribbean airports and to maintain and grow market share. I've already introduced our team in the first part of the presentation, so I won't go back. But to answer one of the questions, we have tremendous depth of experience. Our companies have delivered projects much larger than this one in many different locations. This one's not larger, but it's very special. Our company developed, financed, built, and still currently operates the region's most successful P3 airport in Bermuda. Similarly, we developed, built, financed, operated Quito International Airport in Ecuador, and recently delivered the new terminal in Anguilla, which was also built by our company. We have a team with Avports as our operations and maintenance partner that has experience across a number of different airports in the region, in South America, and of course, in the United States. Just listed a few on these slides. Why did Viper choose a P3? Because they wanted to get something done. This is a globally proven way to deliver public infrastructure and services without any public sector debt. This is really important. There have been more or less 9,000 or more projects delivered around the world in the last 30 or 40 years under this model. It works. About 850 or more airports have been delivered over 90 countries with some element of private participation. So the P3 is a way to bring together the public sector, the private sector, in what we call a symbiotic relationship. We bring the capital, we bring the expertise, we bring the operational efficiency, and they bring public ownership, oversight, accountability. P3 is not a privatization. Ownership of all the assets remains with the public, with VIPA. They remain accountable. They remain the steward of the airports and accountable to you, the public. I'm going to now call upon my colleague Steve Payne, who is our Vice President of Technical Services and O&M, to present some of the technical features of the projects and the renderings. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve, and good evening, everybody. Before I start, I just wanted to give a shout out to Preston Bayer of Viper and his team for the support over the last few years in helping us with our due diligence and coming up with the program for both St. Thomas and St. Croix. Leading into the presentation, I just wanted to focus on the 4 pillars that underpin our approach to both the airports in St. Croix and St. Thomas. That being a sense of place that reflects the identity of the US Virgin Islands, the creation of resilience in the airport infrastructure, introducing modern systems to improve the passenger process, as well as increasing and improving the passenger experience from curbside through to the boarding of their departing planes. Moving on to St. Thomas, touching on some of the key upgrades that we propose to introduce. This is going to be a brand new modern terminal that provides more space, less congestion, and a significant improvement to the passenger experience. Again, touching on the resilience, we'll be looking at implementing a number of water conservation, energy efficiency, and sustainable materials within the building. We'll be enhancing the resilience of the building, both in terms of the infrastructure, the building envelope, and the systems. There'll be improvements in waste management, material management, and environmental protections. You'll also be noticing there that there are 9 dedicated passenger boarding bridges that will be providing a safer, more accessible, and ADA compliant aircraft boarding and disembarkation process leading into the domestic hold room. That is a view of the proposed exterior of the building and will be the first view that arriving passengers to the new terminal will have. In this area here is going to be the new dedicated baggage makeup system. Next slide. Curbside. So we're proposing to implement a fully enclosed, air-conditioned check-in hall. So arriving passengers will process from curb to gate into the previously mentioned enclosed check-in hall. They'll go to an expanded check-in desk area where they'll drop off their checked luggage that will be processed through a state-of-the-art baggage handling system, negating the need to ever take your checked luggage through TSA CBP. Once checked in, passengers will go through an enhanced CBP TSA process area, leading to your new escalators that will take passengers up into your enlarged second floor hold room, where they'll be able to avail themselves of a number of new and expanded retail and concession spaces within a fully air-conditioned and modern hold room prior to embarking upon their departing aircraft. With regards to St. Croix, again, following the same pillars, sense of place, resiliency, modernization, and system enhancement. The proposal here is for a rehabilitation and modernization of certain assets within the existing terminal building. Key new additions to the facility are going to incorporate a partial enclosure to the departure and domestic check-in areas that will protect passengers from inclement weather and also allow them to queue within a conditioned space during their check-in and departure process. Following that, passengers will proceed into the existing domestic hold room, or as it relates to the commuter space, a much improved commuter experience within a refurbished and modernized commuter hold room. And then from the various hold rooms, the passengers will access 3 purpose-built passenger boarding bridges for their departing aircraft. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. I'm going to introduce somebody else from our team at this point to talk to this slide. Jimez. Where are you, Jimez? Got you. Jimez is the head of our HR team at Sky City. He has a wonderful story to tell about coming back to the Virgin Islands for this project, and we are hoping that that is a story we can tell many times over. We have offered another position in an environmental role to somebody else from the Virgin Islands who is coming home with children, and that is also a wonderful story. So this project, we get stuck in things like CPE and boarding bridges and what have you, but in the end of the day, it is all about the people. It's about the people who work here. It's about the people who will keep their jobs, people who will be working in better conditions, and it's about the impact of the project, the long-term impact on the project, on the economy and the people of the Virgin Islands. So, Jimez, please say a few words about how we found you, where you were, and how you see the project.
Thank you. So, good evening. How is everyone doing? All right. So, like Steve said, my name is Jimez Ashby Jr. I am a son of these very Virgin Islands. Grew up in Mandal on the east side of country. Went to All Saints Cathedral School, proud alumni. And I see some fellow alumni in the room as well. So very proud to be a Viking. But I graduated from high school, left to go to college because what I wanted to study wasn't an option for me here. Went away, stayed away for 13 years. 4 years ago, I began to look for an opportunity to come back home. That opportunity for me did not exist, as it doesn't for much Virgin Islanders who are looking to come home and continue in their careers, right? Sky City, as an employer, an added employer to the Virgin Islands ecosystem, right? There's an opportunity for us to also add additional employment, right? So we are not talking about adding additional contractors and things of that nature. We're talking about actual employees of a Virgin Islands entity. So with that, thinking about, not only more jobs, but also thinking about the other things that this means in regards to our economic ecosystem, right? Our airports are our gateways to the world, right? It is how we stay connected to the rest of the world, how we participate as part of our global citizenship, right? So thinking about how this project also has tentacles into other spaces, right? I remember when I was growing up Most of my travel experience was actually going to Miami with my grandfather for his care, right? But just thinking about what that means, right? Healthcare here in the Virgin Islands is still a critical need, right? But there's still need to travel, right? Just earlier this year, I went away with my grandparents to Cleveland Clinic, right? And I felt like I was in the Virgin Islands because there's so much people who have to go away, right? You have a lot of people who have to do, emergency flights out, right? If we don't have a better airport, thinking about what that means for those opportunities, right? So there's a direct connection between the airport infrastructure and what that means for healthcare, right? As well as other opportunities. Thinking about folks who, like I said, want to come home, but also thinking about education, right? Having this skill set, right, what this project brings, allows for additive educational opportunities, right? It allows for there to be the discussion around aviation and those technical skill sets that we so desperately talk about, fixing the brain drain of the Virgin Islands, as well as Sky City, there has already been engagement in regards to commitment. One thing about me when I interviewed with the team is talking about my commitment to making sure that this project puts Virgin Islands first, and Sky City is committed to do that. Part of that is also engaging in the communities, right? And making sure that Sky City is developing and investing in the youth of the Virgin Islands, which we have already done through sponsorships of Little League programs and other things as well. So that's my segment. Thank you all for coming and attending, and I hope that you get the information that you so desperately are yearning for. Thanks, and I'll hand it back to Steve.
Thanks. Thanks, Jameis. As you sort of referenced, we will have a standard practice for our company, develop apprenticeship training programs, skills development, and many, many other initiatives which connect into the community here. That's part of how we do business. Some basic details about where we are, where we're going. We're looking to finalize our agreement with VIPA in the coming month, at which point we will prepare for takeover of the operations on November 1st, when the new tariffs take effect. Once we're on the ground, we'll be preparing the final stages of mobilization of construction in the first quarter of 2027 and closing of our financing. St. Croix construction is roughly 16 to 18 months from that point onwards. St. Thomas obviously is a much more complex program, and we should be finished around 2031. There's one more person I would like to introduce before I conclude, Kelly. Kelly Fredericks is the CEO of Sky City. Kelly has spent decades, not a lot of decades, right? As CEO of several airports in the States, and so brings to us a lot of experience to help steer the ship. And I would like Kelly to introduce himself and say a few words.
Okay. My name is Kelly Fredericks. I like long walks on beaches, red wine. Is that how you're looking, Steve? I'll describe myself. Thank you. Now I want to just make a couple points and then turn it back over to Ava and Steve for closing comments. Looking ahead, and Steve already touched on some of the particular dates, what we're going to be looking ahead at is bringing a successful conclusion to this transition phase, which is then going to lead to the financial close. And as identified in a previous slide, we're talking probably the first quarter of 2027. I don't know if Jamez is still in the room. Great job on that. But one of the things I got excited about is we did this 2 nights ago in St. Croix. We'll do it again tomorrow in St. John. Please come out. And I do appreciate everybody being here. We welcome our airline partners, welcome all of you as key stakeholders. We welcome the pros and cons about this. Get excited about it. But I finally feel like on Monday night, we're able to open the floodgates as far as information about this particular project, these projects going forward. And it's exciting stuff. So I'd encourage you, please, Take a look at our website at www.skycityvi.com or follow us on social media at Sky City or at Sky City Airports. A lot of great information there. And please, it's growing. There's a lot of frequently asked questions and new renderings posted today. You saw some of them provided by Steve. And touching on Jamez, and a couple points I want to make as far as career opportunities. Again, there's a lot of jobs that are going to be created through this program. Please check out our website to see it. And I want to give a shout out to our operational partners, Avports, who have significant experience throughout the Caribbean in operating airports in this market. And I love to hear the story of Jamez. We've got others bringing people back and hiring local. We've got a lot of positions that are going to be open and coming up. These are long-term positions that go from anywhere from entry level to very skilled trade positions. So please check that out. And going back to Outports one more time, our team so far historically, I want to say the number is in excess of 96% of hiring local. So the opportunities are for people here. And that's what we're about. Bring them back or hire local. That's what we're all about. Lastly, I want to say that I was leaving Wednesday night. Sorry about that, sir. Thank you. When I was leaving Monday night over in St. Croix, somebody said to me, how do you stay optimistic? Well, the reason I'm optimistic about this program is Ava touched on it earlier, Steve touched on it. It's transformational, it's generational, and it's exciting. I want to be here. It's exciting to be part of that. I really feel, I've been here since January 2025. I feel welcome. I want to be part of the future, and I really, truly believe the cost of not doing this project far outweighs doing it. The time is now. Never going to have the opportunity again. And I know we have the pros and cons. As Steve indicated, I'm really old. I've been at a lot of airports. I've heard so many of the comments, pros and cons at other places, but we work through it. So I'd encourage you to stay positive. Time is now. We need to move forward. And with that, please check out all of the media, a lot more information. We want to hear the pros and cons from everybody. I'll turn it back over to Steve and Ava for closing comments.
Give me a moment. Thank you, Kelly. I'm going to say a few things before I am upstaged by Ava at the very end. In closing, I would like to say a few things. Sky City and our partners are committed to the U.S. Virgin Islands for the long haul. We would not be here if we did not believe that the government and Viper were not similarly committed to making this generational project work for the people of the U.S. Virgin Islands. We would not be willing to invest hundreds of millions of dollars over decades if we didn't think the project was feasible and affordable. If we didn't believe the changes being introduced will be a net positive for everyone in the tourism ecosystem. The airlines are key stakeholders and partners in this project and process. We value their input and participation. We don't always agree, but we are grateful for the thousands of hours that they have spent with us knocking heads so far. As it relates to concerns about costs, of course, there are costs involved in operating and maintaining and modernizing airports. As service and infrastructure improve, they have to be paid for. But the costs and associated rates and charges will be fair, reasonable, transparent, and in line with regulatory requirements. Airport charges. We talk about our CPE, but airport charges in general are and will remain one of the lowest, if not the lowest, cost contributor to the all-in travel cost for passengers, although pertaining to possibly the most critical aspect of the chain. let's get some perspective on this. We showed you that USVI airport charges are amongst the lowest in the Caribbean. This may sound a little counterintuitive, but that's not necessarily a good thing because it's clearly impacting service. I haven't got there yet. And infrastructure. And once the new charges go into effect, this was the previous chart in November, USVI will still be on the low end of the Caribbean benchmarks. I love this chart. Sandra doesn't like it. Yeah. I am trying to put airport charges in perspective because everybody worries about $50 and $73 and these things. I'm not saying that's not money. It is money. But when people travel to the US Virgin Islands, many, many other costs. From airfares, big bar. Hotels, also big. Transportation, taxis, meals, you name it. The costs to come here are in the thousands of dollars. Okay, we did an analysis of all of the different mainland routes into the US Virgin Islands. Trying to understand what people are paying to travel here and how impactful are the airport charges that we're trying to put in place. Charges that are necessary to keep the airports going. And why do we feel so bad about charging them? Why is the airport the one in the chain that's asked not to increase their fees? So the average traveler cost from the mainland in $27 is around $3,300 a trip across all of these different routes, okay? The airport charges $49 per passenger. We're not the problem. Out into the future, 2031, when our fees bump up to $122, the average inbound all-in trip cost for mainland visitors, $3,600. I mean, these numbers shouldn't be unusual to you when you hear about airfares of $800, $900, $3,000, hotel nights. I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody here involved in hotels, but those are big numbers, and we're talking about CPE, airport charges of $122 compared to overall trip costs of $3,500 on average. It's important to keep these costs in perspective, and I just wanted to show you this chart to say, as a sanity check to us, we understand that cost is cost, it's money, but we must keep perspective, and the US Virgin Islands needs these facilities, and we shouldn't be embarrassed about introducing fees and charges that are 1.5% or 3.5% of the total travel cost for passengers. The only other thing I want to say is thank you to all of the people that helped us organize this event. From Sky City, Luana, Janelle, Jamez, Mark, Nicole, Marie-Eve, Mo, Alicia, who's not here. From Vipa, Munifa, Ava, I don't know who I'm missing, but a lot of people did a lot of hard work to put this event together, as well as the one that we did on Monday and the one that will be done tomorrow. So thank you, all of you. We appreciate you. And we look forward to talking to all of you in the entrance later on. Thanks very much.
All right, good evening. As we close, I just want to again thank everybody for coming out. We heard a lot this evening, and we're going to stick around to answer your questions. I just wanted to close by saying that Viper, the territory, we need these airports modernized. We need it. And the airlines, Lauren from American, Zanel from United, Wilfred from Cape Air, and the airline representatives, Sandra and Liko. I wanted to especially thank you guys for taking the time to come here personally and give your side. We hear you, and we appreciate the comments, and we are going to work together to solve this and get the airports that all of us want and deserve. And like I had mentioned Monday, I consider them part of our family. We don't always agree. Just before we start, we already cussing each other. But we all respect each other, and we all want the same thing. And we might go out there and cuss each other again. But we're family, and family do not all the time agree. You know, Sky City is our partner, and we want to do this project with Sky City. We need it, and we appreciate you guys at everything that you do. Again, we fight too. But Viper has a responsibility to look out for the best interests of the territory, and we're not going to let the airlines or Sky City do anything that will jeopardize our future. And we want the best product that we're gonna get. I get the complaints every day. The members of our staff, our employees get the complaints every day. Air condition don't work, this bathroom, blah, 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 blah. We hear it. And if the Viper had the wherewithal to do it on our own, we would do it. We just don't. That's why we need to partner. And this P3, at this moment, is the best opportunity for us to get the airport that we deserve. We need to remain competitive with the rest of our Caribbean destinations and provide safe airports and for our traveling public. So with that, thank you guys again for coming out. And tomorrow night is in St. John, and we're still in the negotiation process. This isn't done. We're going to take all of your comments and suggestions into consideration. The board still has to approve the final rates and charges and agreement. So we still have a lot of work to do, but this is a good start. All right, so thank you guys for coming out, and have a great evening.
But I want to thank everyone. I know everyone is excited. We've seen the renderings now. I'm sure you're excited about what we have planned, but you probably also have questions. So now is the time for you to be able to engage directly with Sky City. Please stand, Sky City representatives. And Port Authority representatives, please come forward. Now is your opportunity to engage directly with our team and ask questions about our designs or anything that you heard here tonight. We're going to be going out into the entrance, and the renderings are on boards, and you can ask all the questions you have directly to our team. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you to those on Zoom, and I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.